Birds of Prey #7, written by Kelly Thompson with art by Javier Pina, colors by Jordi Belair, and letters by Clayton Coles. And I don't know, Eric, this is a weird book. This is probably, I keep saying, one of the most overrated books at DC right now. And people even put it on their end of year list after 3 issues, which I think is bullcrap right away. But since then, even, I don't get it. I don't get what Kelly Thompson's doing. I don't think she knows the characters and even their position in the DC universe in a thing that kind of gets
if she doesn't know, she'll definitely fudge it, though, to get her story going, because if you don't like the series right now for how much praise it's getting, I think you're going to be labeled as a misogynist, which is really unfair, because this thing is, I want to love a Birds of Prey book. I love all of these characters, but when the whole idea is, all right, we have Maps from the future who's calling herself Meridian now. She's got time travel technology, and we have to connect that to the Green for no real reason. But because we also have a killer from the future that we're trying to stop who wants to kill Barbara Gordon, well, their time travel device is connected to the Red. Well, who do we know who was a part of the Birds of Prey previously who's connected to the Red? Well, Mari McCabe. We can get Vixen involved because that connection to the Red. And I just have to assume, like, even though it's a very small connection, because I haven't read all of Birds of Prey, obviously, but I don't remember her being a member of the Birds of Prey. I remember she helped out previously, but the connection seems a little fudged. And I have to assume that the idea of getting Mari involved here to be a part of this mission is, and also saying the killer is involved with the Red as well for the time travel, that we have Maps over here whose time travel is connected to Green. It's just a way to get Poison Ivy in later on. And it just feels like this weird kind of scavenger hunt to get former Birds of Prey associates involved in different stories where we don't really have a clear direction, even though we should. With everything going on, like that first 6 issues of getting Sid involved and then combined with Megara on Themyscira, it felt totally forced and weird. And I thought this is going to be the time where Kelly Thompson can come out and really shine with her own story. As far as I'm concerned, you make this shit work with a cool team. And I don't know what we're doing right now because everything just feels out of place with what we're doing. The fudged aspect of everything to get. It's like, all right, we got to get a hold of Mari, but she's also having a problem where there's a killer.
That's the weird thing.
Not even the killer. We have to assume that it's the killer because that's what the Birds of Prey thing is connected. Where Mari McCabe, she has a fashion company, a line, exactly, and for some reason, people are randomly being arrested for robbing places who are wearing her clothes. And Mari comes to the decision, this isn't only a coincidence because she woke up at one point during a robbery and had to use her Vixen powers to get out and, escape. So she knows that somebody's out there trying to defame her, and obviously it's the same person who might be trying to kill Barbara Gordon from the future using Red for some reason, the morphogenic field. And I'm like, all right, well, how are we going to stop this? Because we need your help to deal with the Red. Well, I need your help to deal with this person defaming my brand. You need to help me first. So what we got to do is draw the killer out by having a fashion show.
A fashion show. And so when you get from the very beginning, you end up where, out of nowhere, I mean, we've had 6 issues, out of nowhere, Meridian, whose Maps in the future,
from the future.
Not well explained, like you said, says, oh, my time travel is based on the Green. What you say? Like, what does that mean? And
all
says
right.
then,
and
I can't explain it. That then, like, the idea that if that's what it, and it seems like this is a crazy convoluted way to get Vixen involved when, if you really just wanted to get her involved, you would have her call the Birds of Prey, say, hey, I have a problem here. Can you help me? You usually have helped me before. I've been a member of the deal. But no, yet you jump through these weird hoops to connect Green. It almost feels like a Batman 66. Like, sea, that, ocean, Catwoman, boom. You end up Green, Red, Vixen, boom. And when they go there, and then she ends up having the most crazy thing of people. Like, you actually have somebody in the room that has been either possessed or what. Vixen, why don't they ask her one question? Well, what did you feel like? What happened? What's going on? Nothing. She just says the way to draw out the killer, fashion show. It's just to get a fashion show. And even then, when they're doing the fashion show, which is supposed to draw the killer out, Barbara says, I've cut out all communications in or out. So how are they going to know about that? Even then,
I guess, this is a fashion show that, Vixen had set up previously where all the invitations to the press were already sent out. I don't know.
I guess. And now suddenly none of this makes sense in an issue where you have Kelly Thompson not really ever explaining Sin. And in this, Sin is going to, like, one of the parts is playing laser tag.
Well, that's the big action part of the book. Like what happens? What happens in this book that really gets your your interest peaked? Okay, well check this out. You know how he just rescued Sin from Themyscira, and then they combined with Megara to become this new Kelly Thompson version of Sin. Well, guess what? To test her out, cast the Batgirl and Big Barda. They're going to go and take her to laser tag, and they're going to have fun for a few pages before we get to fashion show.
Fashion show. You end up having convoluted time travel non-explanation, laser tag, fashion show.
Well, even the idea of the non-explanation of Meridian's time travel devices connected to Green, because as she says, she couldn't think of too many people that are connected to Green who would use it for nefarious reasons. I'm like, this is going to tie into the Poison Ivy book because we got Jason Woodrue right there. And even if Poison Ivy decides, it just ties into Poison Ivy when she was a member of the team. But right now she's, kind of a good guy. So I can assume that you don't have to worry about her. But I think Jason Woodrue is coming back in a big way because right there, that's two people who you might have to worry about to take control of something terrible like a time machine that uses the Green.
Are we going to find out at some point that Megara, who is kind of a plant god, is connected to? There's some weird stuff, like nothing's
You're right,
explained.
It's Blackbriar Thorn.
Yeah, but again, I love the idea too. All that 6 issues, and there was never a mention until the end of the 6th issue. Oh, by the way, somebody's trying to kill Barbara. That just future. Comes out from the future, and I'm a time travel. The Fritzy nature, which now isn't anything, that was just a device. But when you get to this, the idea where they say, oh man, you're naive, you shouldn't do that, Maps. And then she explains, well, I figured there's no real villains in the Green. I'm like, they should have said, wait a second, you're not naive. You're just plain dumb. You are a Meridian, stupid idiot.
You grew up in Gotham. What are you talking about?
And she's when you have a time traveler that you ask no questions to. You just end up, there's somebody from your future trying to kill Barbara. Never ever say what this, what that. And then ends up where then you have Vixen, who was taken over by whatever. I don't know if it's something magical in the clothing. I hear it's pretty magical. That clothes is a techno. Is it actually of the red? But then why would it go with Vixen? It doesn't make sense. So at the end, it's a convoluted mess.
We talk about the idea using the killer using the red as a means of time travel somehow. We can't explain it, but that's how they're using it. Now, are we going to go with the idea that we could take over people? I don't know how the clothes fit into this whole thing because, humans are connected to the red as well. So can the person using the time travel with the red use the red to control humans? I don't know how the morphogenic field works in this way.
But then on the opposite side, are we saying that they can control people because of the fabric of the clothes? But why only those few people? None of it makes sense. It's one of those things where...
And robbing people to defame Vixen. Because apparently the only press out there is, guess what, everybody? Everybody who robs people, they're wearing Vixen's clothing line.
How do they make this connection? And not only that, where if you would have had... Now, it wouldn't look good for Vixen. Because it's worldwide, we're told.
Global.
That throws it off. If this was one of those where because then people would, but it's a highfalutin. I only do clothes for the elite. Wouldn't look good for Vixen, but that would make more sense because then only a few people would have it. This is basically like saying, we'll go back to 1991 and say, oh my God, everybody who did that were wearing Air Jordans. Everybody was. So it's just nonsense.
That, so I'm good.
Well, again. But still, the idea where Vixen has oh no, get this, these 13 people committed crimes and they were wearing my clothes, and then it gets thrown right out by having Dinah say, well, I'm wearing your clothes. These are great. Yeah, I love them. They're global. I don't get it. I don't get it. And by the end of this issue, it's so odd. And then when you go and look, I'm like, okay, I get it. We got fashion. We got a fashion show. You know that it's going to get rave reviews because of the fashion show. And lo and behold, 100%. People are like, oh, it's the greatest thing. It really gets to the core of the characters. Really?
People will show you the fashion show final page and be like, this is the greatest thing ever.
This is what I've waited for.
Nothing happened in the entire comic.
Yeah. I mean, at one point, there are 2 times this week where we actually get a page with a 12-panel grid. And one is worse than the other. This one, it is Cass deciding what she would and would not wear. All right, I remember when these sort of pages meant something. In the Spectacular Spider-Man #1 this week, you have Peter Parker, where he's trying to become a regular at a coffee shop doing that. I'm like, all right, okay, you just threw it all out the window. Why are we even doing this? But at the end, fashion show, that doesn't make sense. It's there for, Vixen being in here, okay, you're going to force that in. Now we're going to force
We're
a
going to draw
fashion
the
show.
killer. Even the idea, it's like, I know exactly what we have to do to draw this person out who's trying to defame
right?
me. Because even what I'm saying, the whole MO right now is we're trying to defame Vixen by having people who are wearing her clothing involved in crimes they don't remember committing because they're asleep or some nonsense like that. And now we're going to draw this person out by holding a fashion show. I'm like, why would they just come out of nowhere right now for that? Or are you going to be taken over because you're wearing your own clothes, and then the birds of prey are just going to go ham on the entire press, and everybody hates these people now? Where can you go from here? Or you're going to care about what happens in this book?
And the weird thing is, I think that's going to happen, and then it makes everyone there look like a dummy. You have to think that the clothing I don't know. Like, they're not even looking into, is there any way that we're getting the yarns? I don't know how you make clothes, Eric. Yarn, wood, I don't know.
But
are we getting the thread
idea
from here? Are we doing this? Where's the fact? Nothing. It's just like fashion show.
That the person behind us can only control people that are wearing Mari's clothes, okay? Is the thing is where Big Barda, Black Canary, Batgirl, and Vixen are all there, but only one of them's wearing Vixen's clothing line, so they're only taking over. But you say that too. I'm like, you have the three of them. I wouldn't want any one of them to be losing control and trying to fight everybody, because you're still going to have a hard battle on your hand, whoever you choose.
It was funny. I was going to say that, but she has the canary cry. Yeah, it's trouble. Who would you want to? Like, you don't want Barda. She'll kill everybody.
I don't want Barda. I don't want Cass. I'm telling you, the worst off, the best one I can say is Vixen, but even then with the animal powers from the totem,
Get that totem away from her, right?
Again, right? And was she wearing that in the last panel? I have to look at it right now, because the thing is, if she's not wearing that, then the thing is, you want her to be wearing the clothes and her be the problem, because then you can take her out.
It doesn't make sense in my mind that it's actually the clothes, because that then doesn't tie in. It's very odd. I mean, you jump to so many conclusions, but even then, you said while we were doing, and we did our Patreon spotlight on this is picked by the badasses of the Get Fresh crew. And Barda, who's just like, I said at that point, me make holes in teeth. I mean, who is this? Like, she's not a cave woman, but yet that's how she's written here. Like, I break more than hearts. Like, all right, you tough
It's weird the way we decide to write Barda anymore. I'm telling you, Wonder Woman gets written like this half the time. It's weird.
Yeah. I just don't get it. I don't get it. And this book just hasn't made much sense. And if you did like that first arc, I'd love to know how and why, because that was convoluted. It really
very forced.
Didn't work. And then you get to this as a cool down 2 issues, but cool down from what? Because nothing was ever hot. You don't need to cool down. And then there's just jumping to weird conclusions to not explain stuff. And you can't say
Sin,
it's the green, but
the character you may be waiting to see come back finally after all of these years, or a character you know nothing about because you're a newer reader over the past, maybe 20 years or so.
Yeah,
but
really.
It's close to 20 years, I swear to God. But when you have this, what are you going to do with the new character here? You have Sin combined with Megara, this ancient god that was taking over Themyscira. What do? Laser tag. And then you move on.
And the laser tag, I will tell you that the stuff that she's doing in laser tag doesn't really point to me that she would be different because of Megara anyway. She is like most people, I guess, wouldn't even realize that she is a trained assassin. She's been trained to be part of this and then take over eventually of the League of Assassins
and has been trained on like Themyscira all this time that she's been secreted away.
And then, so instead, but why would you have to, that Megara stuff was weird anyway, so...
Totally weird.
It's weird. What would you give this?
I would give this an FU5.
Yeah, I'm giving it an FU5 as well. I won't hit Sammy Hagar here on the YouTube, but that's the deal. I just thought it was ridiculous. So, and also, just this actually gives me the opportunity, because a lot of times I'll put some of the reviews directly from our weekend podcast, and hopefully people know we have a DC Comics podcast every week, comes out Sunday night. But when we do that FU5 type of deal, they don't get it that is actually like a more of a diss than a normal 5. It's kind of this weird little thing that we ended up coming up with.
It doesn't make much sense. We did it for a decade now, and we just kept going with it. Just know that a FU5 is way worse than a 5.
Yeah, it's like, it's way down there. It's like one of those, like, you kind of stick it to them, like, undercover type deal. It's weird.
It doesn't make sense, but
There's been times where people are, I can't believe you gave that a 5. And then I'm like, did we? And I went back on, it's an FU5. So it is a little confusing, but it's kind of a thing that we played with. So with all that, though, thanks, everybody, for listening here, and me and Eric will be back with a bunch of things like that. As I said, this was a book that we talked about on our Patreon Spotlight. You can look in the description, and if
way
you
more in
care
depth
to go, Yeah, we talked a lot. We talked about 40-some minutes on this issue and what we thought about it. This is more of a condensed version to give people a little peek in, but also to let everybody know what we thought, a little taste. So, yeah, check it out. It's patreon.com/Weird Science, but also check our podcast out each and every week when me and Eric skew and review most of the books that come out. But that is it. Thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.